All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. 7 o'clock. Thanks, everyone, for joining, and hopefully some others will dial in as well. Welcome. This is the last of many public meetings that we're holding for the Cultivate Macomb Township Master Plan update. Tonight, we're going to be hearing from you, the residents, about your vision of the township and what you want the future of Macomb Township to look like. I'm going to go over a few things. Many of you, it looks like the names I can see who are dialed in. This is probably a refresher. So what is the master plan? It's a rather dynamic long-term planning document. It really provides a conceptual layout to guide the future growth and development of the township. And really, the master planning is about making that connection between the buildings and social settings and all the surrounding environments. It includes a lot of recommendations that will guide some other documents here in the township. It includes a lot of public engagement, which we're doing tonight, including topics like the residents' vision, which we're talking about tonight. And it's really feeds into several other plans within the township, and it really guides the vision overall. And the resulting master plan is going to provide a ways and means for the township to become really what it's desired to be. So that being said, what have we been doing as part of this? So we had the 3 meetings you see here on the screen early on with some panelists talking about roads and utilities, recreation, trails and mobility, demographics and land use vision. Then we had some more targeted audiences where we met and talked about the Macomb Town Center, the northeast area of Macomb Township, and then we did a business success with some business owners and property owners and developers around the township, where we had some great panelists there as well. And now tonight, the resident vision. The goal here was to talk to, obviously, the residents, but hopefully some residents that could represent their entire HOA and kind of have a voice for a larger group of people. And so I hope that's, those of you who have joined, that's what you're here to represent, is your larger group of people. The timeline for this process, as you see, we're here in early December. We did a lot of data collection this summer. And now this fall has been dedicated to engaging with the public. Obviously, it's been a little challenging. Normally, we would be in person, doing larger meetings with presentations and boards and lots of one-on-one discussions. Obviously, we can't do that right now. So these meetings like this are how we're getting out there. Over the winter months, we're going to work with our project team here and develop the draft of the master plan. And then we'll take it back out to the board to authorize distribution. And that'll give you folks, the public and neighboring communities and other agencies some time to review it and provide feedback. And then we can revise the final plan to look like what the township wants as its vision based on comments we receive. So that being said, we're here tonight to talk about the vision of the residents. And there's lots of things going on in the township. You know, this is historically a farming community. Obviously, golf has been a big portion of the township for a number of years and continues to be. Yet we're seeing a lot of new subdivisions pop up left and right as well. So what do you guys truly want as the vision for the township moving forward? We did a survey on our project website, Cultivate Macomb, and I'm going to go through a few results, preliminary results of that survey, just to feed into what we're going to talk about later on. Ultimately tonight, though, I'm going to pose some questions to you as residents, and so I'm hoping you guys are willing to chime in and give us feedback, because ultimately that's what we're here for. So the survey, the preliminary results are starting to look for them. You see the breakdown on the map, the percentage of results or folks who took the survey and how many responses we got. and where they came from within the township. I know some areas look like they provided more response, and they did, but also keep in mind the populations within some of those areas. So, for example, the town center area only provided 5.7% of the total response, but it's probably less than 5% of the total population of the township. So pretty evenly distributed overall input from around the township. One of the questions that you see here, what do you like most about the township? Scoring very high. You see, proximity to shopping and restaurants, parks and recreation opportunities, some low cost of living. And then we posed a similar question, but in the opposite direction. What do you like least about Macomb Township? And as you see here, traffic congestion was a big concern, as well as the lack of trails and bike paths and lack of recreation options. And I don't have all of the questions on the slides tonight, but I will say, for those of you who took the survey, as we broke it down section by section, early on in the survey, you had to indicate where within the township you live. If I'm not mistaken, I believe every single section of the township, the residents who lived in that section voted trails and recreation as the top, what they want to see in the future. Every single category or every single section that we put out there. So this is kind of a lot to read here, but what do we need more of within the township? And again, you see highlighted there, non-motorized facilities, parks, and restaurants were kind of the top scoring items. And some folks who selected other, that's where you see these bullet points of what they're talking about. There's lots of items there to delve into, and we're going to dig deeper into that as we get into these winter months. But I just wanted to point out the things we're hearing right now are clearly that the residents are interested in more recreational and non-motorized pathways or bike pathway facilities. One of the main areas we touched on with this project so far is the town center. How do we want to see it develop moving forward? So we asked everyone what would be the appropriate uses in the town center. We see a lot of commercial restaurants, trails and sidewalks, and then mixed use being the top categories there as well. And what would you like to see developed, would you like to see it develop more like a Main Street downtown? And it was pretty resounding 2-to-1 vote there that yes, folks would like to see it as more of a Main Street downtown. And then one of the last ones I want to show you, interestingly, traffic was the highest concern around the township, or what people said they liked the least about the township. So this is a preliminary stab at trying to map out. We asked people to kind of point on a map where they find traffic congestion to be a problem. And you see the map on the right there indicating that Romeo Plank clearly has some congestion, particularly at 22 and 23 mile. 23 mile appears to be perceived as having a lot of congestion in terms of east and west roadways. It looks as well that further south you go in the township, there's also more congestion. And that's not overly surprising considering that the higher portions of the population are also in the southern portions of the township. So that being said, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you guys to speak up and chime in on what you want to see moving. Now that you've seen some of the results, what are some things? Were there things in those preliminary results that surprised you? Anything that you would like to mention that maybe a question that we didn't ask in the survey that you'd like to touch on? Please raise your hand. Is it *6, I believe? Or if you're on the computer, you can just click on your name and raise hand, and I will unmute you so you can talk. Anybody have anything to chime in already? Please speak up. Okay, we have one person with their hand raised. Judy, it looks like,
Yes.
go ahead. You should be unmuted now.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I am Judy Michael, and I am president of the HOA here in Macomb Township, Edison Crossing. And thank you for inviting me here. I had a couple questions, and one of them was recently I heard about a futuristic fitness courts. Are there any plans for such things in our parks? They're an outside type of fitness, and they're becoming very popular in all of the United States. I was just wondered if that was ever mentioned in anything.
I'm not aware of that, and honestly, I'm not quite sure what futuristic fitness courts are, so that I'm writing that down as I speak. So that's something I will look into.
Well, thank you. They're for adults, and the model is the same throughout the whole United States. And they're outside, and being our environment recently, it's nice. It would be nice to have something like that in our community. I also was wondering, in that plan, do they have plans to pave the Broughton Road from 24 to 25 to have access to the library and the town center?
So it is definitely on our priority list. We're working with the county to try to make that a reality. When exactly that would happen, we can't really say. It was definitely discussed in some of our previous meetings. Actually, the meetings I showed it on one of the first slides that we've already had. If you go to cultivatemacomb.com, those were recorded, and you can go back and watch and listen into those. And that was discussed by Jim Van Tiffen, the township engineer, about kind of when that might be a reality. But absolutely, that is something that I think the township is interested in for a number of reasons, to help the downtown develop, but just overall flow of traffic. The more north-south, we have a number of roads, Garfield and Heidenreich and Broughton, that don't connect all the way through, and the more connections you can make, the better it is for overall congestion. So.
Okay, I had a few more. Should I continue, or?
Sure, go ahead.
The area at 23 and Hayes was originally planned for a Kohls department store, and I noticed that it's for sale. Is that zoned something specific? Will that be changed to more of a homes, or will it be another center, or they have no idea at this time?
So at this time, it's zoned commercial through a judgment, actually. The landowner there got that Jones zoned commercial through a judgment in the circuit court. And so unless that judgment is changed, or essentially meaning it would have to go back to court, that's actually not something we can rezone due to that judgment. So for the time being, that will remain zoned commercial. The developer there, the landowner there, owns several of the pieces along Hayes, and they have mentioned some of their other pieces that they would be interested in possibly moving residential instead of commercial, but not that piece specifically.
Okay. Another question is, we live in the northeast quadrant here in Macomb Township. And as far as like strip malls, are there restrictions, specific restrictions as to what type of businesses can go in there? I know we need more, and I noticed this on the surveys that you did, more shops, more coffee shops, more little family restaurant type things. Are there specific restrictions? Are there plans for more strip malls out that way, out this
Well,
way?
I guess I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I know where Edison Crossing is, where you're located. Northeast portion of the township.
Right.
That's only a portion of the township. It's still a large area. So I'm not sure exactly what where you're talking, but much of that is still zoned agriculture or R1S, which is more, estate, lower density. Very little property in that area is zoned commercial at this time. So I can't really say that there's plans for any strip malls or anything of that nature right now.
Right.
For this plan, I mean, that's something, we met with a lot of the property owners in the northeast portion of the township, and we've talked about what they would be interested in.
Mhm.
So we are looking at that, but at this point, there's very little that's zone commercial.
That was what I thought I saw on the plan. So, one last question. Are there any plans to fix the bridge at 25 Mile and Foss to go east and west on 25 Mile?
On 25 Mile just east of Foss.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
I do not believe that there's plans at this time to fix that. That's
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's on everyone's radar that's something that in the future might need to be fixed. There's a similar situation on Card Road north of 24 Mile. I think the county has taken the position to this point that it's very rural in those areas, and the traffic levels are so minor and the cost to fix those bridges are so high that it's not justifiable. Their dollars could be spent better helping others elsewhere more efficiently, helping a significantly higher number of people elsewhere.
Okay, well, thank you very much. You've answered everything that I had on. So I will, let someone else take a turn.
Thanks, Judy. Appreciate you dialing in and asking some questions there. And I want to follow up on that, and others please chime in. She mentioned futuristic fitness courts. As I said, almost every section of the township that we came up with, I think there were 9 overall for this survey, identified that recreation and trails were their top priority. What other types of recreation would folks like to see? Anyone? Not seeing anyone raising their hands. Oh, here we go. Mr. Smith, go ahead.
Hi, my name is William Smith. I'm on the HOA in Penzian Farms over at 25 Romeo Plank area. I guess looking at some of the stuff, is there still a plan to go forward with more of the sidewalk, the gap closures, specifically in our area, like Romeo Plank 25 Mile area, and we're on the south side of 25 Mile. So we're looking like towards when the library opens. Is there going to be a shot heading east on the south side of 25 Mile for sidewalks, or will that come as land gets developed heading that way?
So we definitely have identified, the need for paths on the major, the mile roads, as well as the major north-south, like North Avenue and Card Road and Heidenreich and Garfield and Romeo Plank. And so in areas where those are not yet installed, we are working with the GAP program to fill in some of those gaps. Some of the bigger pieces, we probably will wait until development happens in those areas. And I would say the same thing I said to Judy. If you want to go to cultivatemacomb.com, the very first work session we did was the roads and utilities, and Mr. Van Tifflin spoke quite a bit about the gap closure program and some of their plans moving forward, what the next few years are going to look like. I don't remember that location off the top of my head, whether it's programmed for next year or the year after, but he does give a pretty good forecast, I think, of 4 or 5 years into the future.
Yeah.
So
I attended that one. There's some sections on the north side of 25 I remember seeing. I was just curious for the library, because we can cross 25 and go on the north side and get so far, maybe up towards like one of the farms or something that's on the north side, and then it kind of ends. But we're just looking for a pathway to be able to get to the library from our subdivision. But yeah, it looks like there'll be some gaps on there, but okay. Yeah, I appreciate it.
As I said, town center is certainly, high on our list to keep moving forward. And as that develops, there'll be ample more opportunities for sidewalks and ways. So
Right.
hopefully that connection is made in the relatively near future.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have thoughts about what type of recreation they would like to see? Judy, go ahead again.
Yes, I guess. I did want the futuristic fitness courts. If you look into that, I would love to see some of those. But I think that the people in my community would really like to have walking paths, nice, extended, paved wide enough, and then a separate bike path so that the bikes and the people walking are on the same path. I think that would be ideal for what my community would be looking for. Not so much children's type of activities, because we're more of a community of, elderly citizens, shouldn't say elderly, but, citizens that have been around a while. So that would be more, I think, what we would be interested in having here and seeing some of that.
Okay. Thank you. Kathy Western, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm with the Maple Villas Homeowners Association, and a couple of comments regarding the former Wade Nursery property. The community here was very excited when the township purchased it, because they were hoping that it wouldn't be purchased by someone who would just build more houses. But there doesn't seem to be much happening with the property. The aesthetics of it have not improved. And although it's been nice to have the old township hall as a start of a historical site, we were wondering what other plans there might be for the former Wade Township property. Specifically, since it does have access to the river, has there been any discussion about maybe a place to launch canoes from, or kayaks from that property?
Well, it's a great question. I don't think there are any specific plans right now of what exactly to do with that property. We do, as you said, have the historic town hall located there. I mean, moving forward, what's going to happen there, I think, is to be determined, and that's something that we'll look at as part of this plan. Also, you mentioned putting, canoes or kayaks into the water there.
The water lowers quite a bit. In response to Kathy on the water and the kayaking, I don't think it would accommodate throughout the season enough water volume to be able to canoe or kayak. The North Branch of the Clinton River would be the candidate for that, because that branch of that river gets pretty low during June, July, and August generally. And I don't know for sure if that would handle any kind of sporting like that.
And I do know that as part of the county's Greenway plan, they are interested in something similar to that. I guess more would be the southeast portion of the township, or northern Clinton Township, some type of a place where, canoe rentals or kayak rentals, they could be launched into the river in that area. But I don't think they identified this as being one of those areas.
Well, that's good information. Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like we're getting a few questions in the chat here. Debbie indicating she'd like some more hiking trails, as well as, looks like she was referring to the kayaks or canoes being put in. She would support that, and picnic tables would be nice as well. Ronald Papa mentioned, have we re-examined the demand for retail and commercial development in the future? Obviously, COVID has impacted the business environment in the short term. They may have long-term consequences, especially with the growth of online retail and strip malls filling to capacity. So yeah, that's absolutely, Ronald, something we're looking at with this. We do have a fair amount of commercial in the township, but we also have some vacant commercial in the township. And I guess time will tell how things bounce back after COVID. But we certainly don't want to, move forward thinking that commercial is a thing of the past. Our strip malls or larger commercial developments are a thing of the past. We need to keep that in mind, that, those items can and likely will come back. So yeah, we are looking at that. And actually that leads me into another question I would ask the group here. Commercial was identified as something in our survey as being in demand or desired moving forward. What type of commercial would folks like to see? More retail, more restaurants? I'd be curious to know your thoughts on those. Anyone? Phone number ending in 4213. Go ahead. Go ahead. Looks like you're unmuted. I'm not hearing you though. Still not hearing you. I'm going to move on. Aaron Tuckfield, go ahead.
Hey, can you hear me, Josh?
Yes, I can.
Very good. I just wanted to rephrase the question a little bit. The last question you had, because I had a very similar question I was hoping to ask people, and not as much in the what would you like to see more of, but as we have homeowner association presidents here and people within that grouping, what do they hear from people that they don't have related to their subdivision? So, for example, in my specific subdivision, we hear people talk a lot about gas stations. It's something that people mention around us, that we don't have gas stations. And I think a lot of different subdivisions have something that in your particular locations, like, oh, I just don't have this close enough. I'm curious to hear what people hear. What do you not have nearby you? What's something that people mention wishing that they had nearby that they don't have? Just to dovetail with your question to the group.
Yes, thank you, Aaron. That's well stated. Mr. Thompson, Bill Thompson, go ahead. You need to unmute yourself.
There it goes. Thank you.
Yes.
Development in this northeast quadrant, it's got to be followed. It's got to be started by utilities. Trying to develop the North Avenue corridor. I've always thought, I've lived in this area for a long time. I've always thought the west side of North Avenue from 25 Mile Road, or from 24 Mile Road, almost all the way to 26, looked like industrial and commercial to me. You got floodplain in there, a lot of land that really can't be developed for residential purposes because of the floodplain. I guess my question is, what's the utility situation at the Woods? I know we've talked about this before, just with the township engineer and stuff, but is anything being done? Or what's being done?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and again, to say the same thing that I said to others, this is something that was talked about as well at some of our earlier meetings. Utilities is going to be a big driver for development in the Northeast area, because there's a lot of area that water and sewer may not be, connected to yet. So as that does start to get connected, it would likely spur some more development up in that area. But you're right, that's limiting development at this time. As far as plans for development or for utilities to expand in that area, I think, the township has looked at it. Typically that's been moved incrementally with each development as new sewer, for example, gets dragged along with each development. The county is also looking at it. I know there's some plans for 26 Mile potentially in the future, being a bit more of a thoroughfare, considering it does have freeway access, and possibly dragging some utilities down 26. Whether or not that comes to fruition, I can't say. But so those things are being looked at, but absolutely, that's a great point that, to Aaron's question about what do you have or what do you not have near you that you would like, some areas are going to be limited for a little while until utilities are put in place. So, for example, the Northeast area, if somebody said they wanted a Kroger nearby, well, Kroger's probably not going there anytime soon because there's not utilities to handle a facility like that.
Well, like I said, that corridor, the North Avenue corridor, it's halfway between Gratiot and Romeo Plank. It's the main track going up north, going up to Armada. Commercial and industrial or something similar, some similar uses like that seem like a natural fit for that area.
Yeah, and we heard that when we had the discussion with the homeowners and property owners that, there's some desire to keep the North Avenue corridor, more rural, larger lot homes. But things, for example, were pointed out that I believe it's 23 Mile. There's a gas station at 23 Mile, and there's not another one until like 32 Mile or something like that. So, littler developments, I think, were much more desirable to those folks. Phone number ending in 4213. Let's try this again. See if you can unmute yourself. Looks like you're unmuted. I'm still not hearing you.
Hey, Josh, that phone number, I know who's on the phone number and she texted me her question. She's saying she's having a hard time getting through. That's Terry Campion. She's at 23 in Romeo Plank, north of 23. And her question was, how closely is the township overseeing the 23 Mile expansion?
That's largely a county facility. So that's, as far as overseeing, I would say we're not overseeing it at all. I mean, we have coordinated, some utilities in the area and things like that, but we're not overseeing it per se.
As far as and I'll ask this just to hopefully extend on it. As far as the timeline for it, I know we talked about this in the roads and utilities portion, but for the stretch from that's currently unwidened from North Avenue, or the portion by North Avenue to Romeo Plank, what's the generally expected time frame on that being fully widened?
Yeah, I believe the first stretch from North Avenue to Card is this started, and going to be done in this coming year. And I think they're phased for the next 2 years, I want to say, after that. So, yeah, heading west.
1 mile.
Yeah, roughly 1 mile at a time.
So by the end of 2023, let's say, in theory, 23 should be fully widened from Hayes all the way to Gratiot.
I believe that's the plan, yes.
Okay.
This fall, they do it.
Just going back to some of the comments here in the chat. Kathy Western mentioned as far as retail, more specialty markets such as Trader Joe's or Whole Foods. Interesting segue, I guess, off of that. So I know I didn't show all of the results of the survey, but in looking through that the last few days, we had multiple comments in the survey about wanting fewer chain or big box restaurants or commercial developments and more of the local or mom and pop type developments. But then some of the same people making those comments would then say they were interested in a Trader Joe's or a Whole Foods, which are chain and can be viewed as big box. So I think we're getting a bit of a mixed message there, but it sounds like maybe the specialty food markets might be the exception to the want for as far as chain businesses or big box businesses go. Debbie mentioned that as a vice president of Winding Creek HOA, we're thankful for the proximity to Kroger, but we would like more restaurants, ice cream parlors, and Starbucks type coffee shops that we could walk to. Ronald, this might not be too popular of an answer, but I wouldn't mind some fast food restaurants. I'm at 23 Mile and Romeo Plank, and the McDonald's there is so busy, it's pouring onto 23 Mile. So the demand is there. Everything else is either on Hall or in Shelby Township. Yeah, and that's something we've noticed as well, that, you know, the restaurants, though there's commercial throughout the township, a lot of the restaurants tend to be, you know, in the Hall Road, Gratiot, or Hayes Road, you know, right on the edges of the township. And when we asked those questions on the survey, many people indicated that for those purposes, for eating, for dining purposes, they do in fact leave the township to visit other townships, you know, restaurants and facilities. And I guess maybe a segue there, they listed where they go, and the vast majority of the locations, the obvious being the neighboring Chesterfield or Shelby Township. But beyond that, there were several folks who listed places like Rochester, Royal Oak, even much further away places like Northville and Plymouth, which to me strikes me as those are all places with a true downtown, the Main Street downtown. So I guess the question I would ask is, are folks choosing to go to those places because they like that downtown space, or are there specific restaurants or facilities that just happen to be in those locations that folks are going to? Anybody have a thought on that?
Hey, Josh, I just wanted to add one comment in here that with regards to destinations within the township, so township as it happens to be with food or event things, there's only a few places that I regularly hear from people that where they say, I'm going somewhere tonight, and it's in Macomb Township. I hear about Imagine, 23 and Hayes. I hear about Aspen down at Hall Road and Heidenreich. And I hear about the restaurant at 22 and Romeo Plank, Testabara. I hear about those regularly as I'm going somewhere tonight, and that's probably the only places within the township I hear that on a regular basis. And there may be others, but that's where I hear it. and I feel along the same lines as the Trader Joe's and things of that nature. Those unique but similar uses that aren't necessarily the same as other places are popular and something that somebody will go to a Royal Oak, to a Rochester for, because that's where they tend to congregate. And maybe we don't have the same downtown as that, but that's definitely something that we don't have a lot of those type instances within the township.
Yep. I guess going back to some of the chat messages that have been left. Ms. Arnold, I am from Pinecrest Subdivision 22 in Romeo Plank. When we move on to another topic, I'm interested in an update on the Walden Communities proposal. I understand despite the rezoning being denied in June 2019, the township has continued to work with the developer to accommodate and allow development to proceed. I'd like to understand the township's conditions that were required, the updates that were made, the proposal, and the timeline for development. I'm familiar with the area, keeping in mind that I'm relatively new to the township, so I'm not overly familiar with the June 2019 rezoning being denied. But Dave, I don't know if you can weigh in on some of the plans. I know you've looked at what they've shown recently.
Yeah, but I'm Dave Skirtle, the consultant to the city. The project you're speaking about did get denied in 2019 by the board. The developer at that point had gone to court. It was approved by the, I understand it's approved by the planning commission, denied by the board. The developer at that point went to Macomb County Circuit Court and got an approval through what's called the consent judgment by the judge. As of right now, the consent judgment allows the developer to construct low-rise, one-story, two-family condominiums at the north end. The center core up to the river will be apartment buildings, multiple-story apartment buildings. And then at the southwest corner will be a skilled nursing center. And that's where we're at right now. They will have a public parking lot in the center of the property that will accommodate a trail connection to another public trail that will string along the river, eventually connect up to Waldenburg Park, and then possibly go northward into a larger trail system. And that's where we're at right now.
Thanks, Dave, for that update. Continuing to just read through some of these messages in the chat here. Small strip mall across from Firehouse 4 on 25 Mile be a great location for a coffee/donut shop, maybe an ice cream shop with home corners in the area. I think residents want healthier food options. Is there a restaurant opening at 23 in Card? 23 Mile in Card, there is no.
There's Leo's there now. 23 cars, Leo Cognac.
Yeah. Yes, that's Buscemi's is on one corner, and you're right, Leo's Coney Island is on the other southern corner.
Yeah, and Buscemi's is a big expansion.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a phased expansion at Buscemi's, but yes, there's some expansion going on there. If you were to look on a map, there's a drain that kind of cuts on an angle from 23 down to Card Road. They're essentially expanding to the footprint of everything north of that drain. I don't remember off the top of my head. I do believe that one of them is a restaurant, maybe a fast food restaurant. I can't be for sure. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's phase 2. It's not in the first phase. For Buscemi's, and then directly across from Buscemi's on the northwest corner, there is also some more kind of development there that initially was purchased by a bank, and that bank decided not to move forward and there's some new plans in the works there. And I believe a coffee shop is one of the potential tenants for one of the locations there. We're posting for the benefit of all the others. Fine. Okay, yep, I just read that one. Additional question about the former Wade Nursery property. Is it true the dog park originally planned for Whitney Park will now be at Wade? When will they break ground? Residents have been told for years that there will soon be a dog park. Thanks. I don't think there's any official plans on where a dog park will go at this point. I know it's on everyone's mind and everyone's radar. It's certainly something that's desired, but I do not think that we have any finalized plans of exactly where that's going to be, but it is definitely something we're interested in providing, and I think everyone is interested in having it. So, Debbie, you mentioned I really enjoy going to downtown Rochester. The small shops are really a treat. The uniqueness like a dog, bakery, a Sanders, antique shop, etc. Ms. Arnold mentioned that it's unbelievable that there are multi-story apartments. It's not even close to what was proposed. Again, that's the judgment that was brought to us from the circuit court. So, and it is 3 stories. So I don't want folks to think that's going to be a skyscraper or anything there, but that's from the judgment from the court. Aaron mentioned Mr. Thompson is in the audience, might be able to expand on those 2 projects. So again, the question, what is multi-story? It's 3-story. And yes, the projects at 23 and Card, Mr. Thompson, I know you're involved in some of those. I don't know if you have things you can or are willing to share about those, the status and what might be going there.
Yes, we have site plan approval for the southwest corner. And we're currently doing the engineering for a complex that would eventually have a gas station with a Buscemi's Party Shop involved to it, attached to it, along with a drive-in restaurant located next to Card Road, a small strip shopping center, maybe 4 or 5 units. There's potential for another drive-through restaurant at the far end. And there's also potential for a drive-through restaurant, actually site plans have been approved, at the northwest corner of 23 and Card. So there's development proposed for there. Like I said, a small strip center. And actually that's the only fast food places right now between Romeo Plank and Gratiot just about. So there's some stuff filling in there.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate that. Anybody else have anything, again, I'm hoping you're representing your HOA, and even if you're not, you're obviously still a resident and representing yourself. Are there things that we haven't talked about with regards to the master plan that you would like to see? Happy to hear anything you folks might have to say.
Can we get Judy back online? Could you explain that futuristic?
Yeah, sure. Judy, if you don't mind.
I'm here.
Judy, this is Charlie Oliver. I'm sitting here with Josh and Dave. That futuristic gym, is that an outside gym? Can you describe it a little better?
Sure. I'm actually Googling it right now. Hopefully I can get a list of some equipment. It's cemented, most of it. And so the parts cannot be taken away. And there's posts, there's chin-up posts, and there's places for sit-ups, and it's a whole outside. I mean, the measurement is specific, and what the equipment is exactly specific as well. And I'm trying to Google it to find out if,
I tried myself and I couldn't get no luck. So to probably easily describe it, it would be all weather resistant style equipment, whether it be some kind of aerobic equipment or anything like that. Is that probably the best way?
I would think so that if you Google it, there is one along Beck Road in Canton, and they have pictures of that, and it is exactly like it is throughout all the United States, and it shows the equipment that's in there, and it's very exciting. I think it's, you know, it says it's an unusual new structure. The outdoor structure is called a fitness court. The identical courts are popping around the United States, and it has all the different equipment and the pictures of it that you can see. So I think it's exciting, and I think the community would really like something like that in our parks.
Yeah, we're kind of looking at it now. It's quite interesting the way they got that set up, and I can agree with you. I think something like that would be probably used a lot in a park.
I think so. And they have so many things for children, you know, and some of the adults have been using the children's things because there really isn't a place for adults outside other than walking or riding bikes. And I think it would be an excellent use of a small area of land. So.
Interesting. Well, thank you for that. I'm glad you was able to clear me up on that because I couldn't find that on the internet, but we got it here now. So again, thank you.
Okay. I hope we can get some.
It sounds like, based on some of the comments here as well, that there might be some of these futuristic fitness courts in Stony Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And Debbie is also asking about what the liability would be for the township.
It would be, no.
Yeah, exactly. It would be the same as any other park.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything else that folks wanted to talk about? Please raise your hand and speak up. We're here to listen. William, do you have your hand up again, it looks like?
Yeah. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Can you hear me all right or no?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I got one more question. Something that came up with some of the residents is, and I don't know if this is the platform for it, but for like the parks, like Macomb Corners, which happens to be close to Penzian Farms, is there any plans to keep that open in the wintertime for people to be able to park and use the walk paths that are in that park? Because I know it gets closed up and it ends up where a ton of people are parking on 25 Mile, and I think the sheriff ends up coming out and telling people they got to leave. But that's something that a lot of people that walk to our neighborhood, or they look for another place to walk just for change of scenery, to be able to get into the Macomb Corners in the wintertime.
Okay. I don't know the answer to that, but I can definitely talk with Mr. DeCaro, the Parks and Rec director, to see what his thoughts are.
Might be
for
something for him. Yeah. Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Some more comments here. Ms. Arnold, thanks for the time and updates. Mitch asked, what is being developed on the southeast corner of 21 and Card? So we have been working with a developer there. There's nothing that's really been brought, to a final level, or a preliminary level, to even go to the planning commission with. But kind of what I think what they're thinking there is kind of a mix of some residential and some commercial facilities there. That's Debbie who said, I would like to see a community center such as the one in Rochester Hills. There's so many events and classes. I can't write about it here. So many that I can even write about here. Even a place where people can showcase their skills. Okay, thank you for that. Anyone else? Anything we're missing here? And I know it was asked earlier, before I forget, how many folks were attending. I think at the peak, we had 16 total folks. Looks like we're down to about 12 plus some panelists here. So to answer that question, and I do see, I know that question is often asked about elected officials. Charlie is in the room here with me, and Supervisor Viviano is on as well, as are a few members of the Planning Commission. And also Clerk Posey is on as well. And then, yes, Charlie, Aaron, Tuckfield, Jasper Shudo, Michael Hardy, all from the Planning Commission are on as well. So I know some of you like to know that information. Anything else? I didn't have any other questions that I wanted to bring up. So unless there's something else you guys wanted to talk about, have at it, or else I'm not seeing any hands raised. All right, well, thanks again, everyone, for participating. Thanks if you've taken the survey. We've closed that out now, but please, stay tuned to cultivatemacomb.com. We have all of the updates. Again, this session is recording as well and will be posted there. All of our other meetings are posted there. We will continue to upload documents once we fully sort through the survey. I think we'll be uploading that as well, so you can read what other people had to say in the survey. We've also recently closed out the photo contest. To be honest, we didn't get a ton turned in, only a handful. So it looks like most everyone who turned one in might get one of the great prizes we had. So thanks for those who turned those in. And again, share the website, the cultivatemacomb.com. Make your neighbors, the folks in your HOA aware of it. And that is absolutely the way to stay in touch with this project and this process as we move forward. With that, I will say thanks again and good night, everyone.